What's going on YouTube? Welcome to Wes's Angling. Me and my dad are at German Lane Fishery today doing a little bit of a review. Now we have had some frosts over the past week, so I don't know what the fishing is going to be like today. I'm going to be fishing bread on the method feeder and we're going to be fishing this lake today. We haven't actually fished this particular lake before, so we're not 100% sure where the best spots are on it. This looks like the slightly narrower side to the donut lake. On the other side it opens up a bit and seems a little bit wider, but we've opted to this side for the pure laziness that we can park behind the peg. Like I said, just going to be fishing bread punch on the method feeder with blended up bread flake as loose feed, but that's the wider side. My dad said apparently in summer all this is covered in lily pads, so this side might actually be a very good side to fish in winter, but obviously if you're fishing to the island you're risking potentially getting snagged on lily pad stems and things like that. So we're going to fish the opposite side today and literally just see how we get on. I'll show you the other lake that they have here as well. There's a lot of very easily accessible pegs at German Lane, probably 5 or 6 pegs that you can park behind. I think my dad's going to be fishing bread feed on the method feeder as well. Are you fishing bread feed on the method feeder?
No, I'm fishing small
cage feeder with bread. Yeah. So if you don't know how to blend bread up for the method feeder and cage feeder, I'll put a short clip in now and show you how to do that. Okay, so all you do is put your white sliced bread into the blender and whiz it up. You can adjust the consistency to how you want it. In summer you might want a slightly chunkier consistency, but I'm going for something medium like this. It's still got a few bits in it. Bread soon dissolves when it's on the lake bed, so it's no problem if you want some chunks in. It still binds together, as you can see. This is literally just a cheap white Morrison's loaf. You don't have to spend a load of money. And then what I'll do is I'll put it back in the bag like this and then seal it up tight. You don't want any air getting into it because it'll dry the bread flake out. Like I said, you don't need to add water to it or anything like that. It should be naturally moist enough. So I've literally whizzed up half the loaf there, and I'm going to keep the other half to put on the hook and use the bread punch. But all I'm going to do is seal it up in that bag and then tie a tight knot in the top of it and you're good to go. So literally 40 pence there, and that's a day's worth of bait. So you've got 2 overgrown islands here that you can fish to. I believe fishing to the islands at German Lake is the winning method, but look at the drop on this bank here. That's a good 4-foot drop, so that might be quite difficult to fish on a method feeder. It'd be probably ideal for pole over to the island. And this is a much bigger lake than the lake that we're fishing today, but we've already fished this one. We fished it in summer many years ago. I believe that the fishing is good at German Lane, even through the winter. The lake that we're fishing today, which is this one, is 8 foot deep in parts, which is obviously what you want to look out for in winter. A slightly deeper lake, which holds the temperature, and the fish are going to be a little bit more active, or hopefully anyway. So I've just started bringing some of my stuff down to my peg. There's my bread, so I've left some unblended so I can punch that for on the hook. And then I've got my blended up bread feed there ready to put on the method feeder. I'll go through with you the process of doing that. I'm just going to be rigging it on the method feeder with a little bit of a hook stop. And yeah, we'll just see how we get on. I can't see it being mega full on and us catching loads of fish, but you never know. So you've got to be in it to win it, and this is the peg that I'm going to be fishing. There's a little bit of an inlay into the far bank there, so I'm probably going to have a method feeder out to that and maybe one towards the middle. I'm going to be fishing on the bite alarms today, just so I can sit out of the rain, because it is drizzling slightly. A little bit damp and dreary. Right folks, I'm going to get myself set up now and we'll get fishing. I'm gonna get my brolly set up first, just so all my tackle's not getting wet. It's not raining heavy, it's just a damp drizzle. Which actually makes it probably a little bit milder than it has been over the last couple of days, which is a good thing. Right, like I said, I'm going to be fishing bite alarms, so let's get myself set up a little bit away from them. And then I'll get this pegged in. Some pegs somewhere. It'll give us a little bit of privacy while we're filming as well, in case anybody else comes on the lake. Oh. There we go. Unhooking mat. Probably won't need that today, but get it set up anyway, just in case. It's not windy today, so I don't think that's going to blow away. Could do with a wash with the rain anyway. As far as I'm aware, at German Lane they come round for the money. I'm not 100% what it is for a day ticket yet, but I will let you know. So there's my blended up bread feed for the method feeder. Some finer bits, some bigger bits, but that soon dissolves in the water anyway, and the fish will feed on that, no problem. 40p for the loaf, so 40p for this full day's fishing. Hell of a lot cheaper than ground bait, and hopefully I'll show you today that it can be productive as well, especially at this time of year. Now make sure you check your fishery rules, because a lot of fisheries don't allow you to use bread feed. Now hopefully my bite alarms have got battery in them, because I've not charged them up for a while. Well, that's one working. The button on this SKX can be a bit dodgy. I have had them a couple of years. You've got to press it in the right you got to press it in the right place for it to switch on, which is a little bit annoying, but there we go. Finally. Put me back under that burley shelter for a minute. I use this bag as a little bit of a table as well when I'm fishing like this. Wes's angling towel. Not been washed in about 4 months. There we go, look at that little setup. My dad's setup looks a little bit more professional than mine. A couple of you have asked what these rods are. They're a Gray's Prodigy TX 12-foot specimen, 1 1/4 test curve. So they're ideal for bream, medium-sized carp, tench, anything like that. Very nice action to them as well, not too heavy. Taking you through the full setup today, because I haven't done that in a while. I'm hoping that I can fish bite alarms today because there's no rules up anywhere, but I'm pretty sure you can here. If not, I can always just switch my bite alarms off and watch my bobbins. Nothing wrong with that. Still does the same thing. Just takes a little bit more attention, that's all. I'm going to use my small net today, just because I don't think the fish go massive in here. I'm going to stick this back in the car so it don't get wet. Get out yet? My dad's fishing with a feeder rod. I'll show you in a second. I'll show you his setup. Got my replacement camera there, slight upgrade, so maybe we'll get that out at some point today. Conditions aren't really right for using the big camera though, so we'll see if it eases off with this drizzle. Don't want it getting damp and wet. Look at this setup there. You can tell he's OCD. So corn and bread today, your bread punch. Yeah. That is fine, isn't it? Mine's a lot chunkier than that. Is that using that blender that I give you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine mixes it a little bit.
I only give it a couple of ways, you know what I mean?
I had mine on ages and it don't blend it that fine.
Sell it you back.
So we're still using that Euro ×1 precision feeder that we did a review on. Been alright, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've just got another 420 for that one.
Have you?
Put some 8 pound on it yesterday.
So using a Preston Innovations, what's it called?
Magnitude 420.
Magnitude 420. Right, let me get my rods out. I'm going to be packing up by the time I'm fishing. Right, hook lengths. Already pre-tied them up. Let's get them out. And hopefully the GoPro will be able to pick these up because it's not very good on small things. So you can just see I've got a quick stop there, and you just push that through the bread and away you go. So little size 14 hook on there and a normal size method feeder hook link. When you're fishing with bread punch, what I don't do is I don't bury the actual bread inside the method feeder like you would normally. I keep it free. You don't want to pull your punch bread off the hook stop when you're squeezing it into the mould. So that's the reason I don't do that. Goose crap everywhere, look. So I'm going to put 2 of them on, take these old banded hook links off, and then I'll show you the punching. Okay, so for those of you that aren't following the channel, these method feeders that I've been using are just cheap eBay banjo feeders, okay? £1.50 each to work out at, which is absolutely nothing in terms of method feeders. So I like to save you a few quid where I can. The 30 grams, standard colours and sizes. They're equivalent to a small Preston Innovations banjo feeder, and they're ideal. They're not perfect, but they do the job. So this year I'm just trying them out. I'm not affiliated with the eBay company in any way, but what I will do is I will put the link for it in the description if you wanted to save yourself a few quid and get some of them. That's ready to be loaded up with bread. So I'm just going to put probably 3 or 4 punched bread sections on there, and that hook stop will just stop that bread from coming off. It's better than hooking it on the hook, because what you want when you're fishing the method feeder is you want the hook free so that you're going to get the best self hooking that you can. I'm going to do the same with the other one, and then we'll get the bread punch loaded up. Dad's had his first fish on the bread punch. What is it?
Skimmer.
Time. That is, I think that's one of the smallest skimmers I've ever seen. Why is it so foamy? Weird. I think you might need a smaller net, Dad. If you want to know how to tie up a method feeder rig, again, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner to a video that I've done on that. These rigs work the same way as tying a banded method feeder rig, but they're just slightly different. It's just a little piece of plastic that you push through the bait using a baiting needle, and then that falls flat on top of the bait and stops them coming off. I'd better hurry up and get fishing, haven't I? My dad's already one fish up. Right. So we've got our bread punch there, just a cheap bread punch. Don't need to be out fancy. I don't damp the bread down or anything like that, you don't need to. Always take your litter with you as well. And I'm just going to punch out. It's quite a wide punch this, so I'm going to go with 2 sections. So I've got a few to go with there. And I've got my baiting needle, so I'm just going to get them out, put them on top of the bread so you can see it keep falling off. Then what we want to do is get our method feeder hook link, put our baiting needle in the bottom of the quick stop like that. You probably won't be able to see this on the GoPro, I understand that, but hopefully you get the idea. So baiting needle in the bottom of the hook stop, and then you just want to thread those on. 1, 2, let's go with 2 for now. I just pull that out the hook stop and then pull them little pieces of bread down, and there you go. So that's a double punched, loaded up method feeder rig. And then I'm just going to get some of this bread feed and squeeze it into the feeder, and that'll come off. Some on the cast, some will dissolve on the bottom, but all coarse fish will love that, apart from perch probably. But there we go. Carp and bream will go mental for that, and that'll actually break up on the bottom and expand, and the fish will have no idea that that bread isn't free offerings. Right, so I'm just going to underarm this out. I want to be as close to that island as possible. One of my subscribers have told me that even in winter, fishing to the island's productive. It must be quite a deep drop off. So I'm just going to try and underarm it, and then if we get close I'll clip up. That was not bad at all. I'm impressed with that. So that's the way I'm going to be fishing on both rods. I'll get the other one out. I'm going to fish the other one to the middle, I think. Put our bobbin on, bait runner on, and that's good to go. Check my alarms on. Alarm's on there. It's on quiet, so if anybody else comes today, I'm not going to be getting on my nerves with it. Now, if you're doing this method, you don't even need to use a bread punch if you don't want. You can just use some of these bigger pieces of bread feed that are in here. So I'll just show you again. Baiting needle into the bait stop. Get our punched pieces of bread. Just gently ease them onto the stop. You don't want to split them if you can help it. and then just pull them flush against your bait stop. When you're fishing bread feed like this and bread flake, you do need a fairly decent size hook. Size 14 is probably a minimum. You don't want to be really using a size 16 unless you're using a really small punch size. So again, just a little underarm, a little bit closer in that one. When you're using bread on the method feeders, you do have to cast out a little bit more often than you would if you were using a wafter, just to make sure that the bread's still on, because small fish can pick the bread off and not hook themselves, so just bear that in mind. And I just want to keep the drizzle off that. You don't want it going soggy. You don't need to add anything to it, it's fine as it is. Just literally a white blended loaf, that's all. Right, we're fishing. Dad's already one ahead, but it's a good sign that the fish are feeding, even if they are small. After catching anything today, we're not bothered about what we catch, we just want to be catching. So my dad's just said this lake that we're fishing today is actually the match lake, which makes sense because there's a lot more pegs on it and it's a lot more even. Tend to make match lakes pretty uniform so that there's no pegs that should be better than the others, so on and so forth. As you probably know, me and my dad don't fish matches, we're just pleasure anglers, and we're just happy to catch anything. It's just about getting out for the day, and enjoying catching a few fish. Yeah, it's completely different. So my dad's just saying that it's probably been 10 years since we were last fishing here. It doesn't seem like it, but it probably was. We fished this lake last time. I'm pretty sure I fished this peg here over to that island, and it was in summer and all the carp were cruising. You could see all the nice colourful koi, but I remember that island being a lot further away than it was because I was trying to underarm bread to it. So if I was going to pick a lake, I'd probably want to fish this one, but my dad just said we've not tried the other one, might as well give it a go today. But this looks like a really nice lake, really good access. So it's just a right turn off German Lane. You'd see the fishery, it's pretty easy to find, and then you just pay on the bank. Seems quite chilled here. Not had any bleeps so far. So I'll probably give it 15-20 minutes and then have a recast. Like I say, I don't want to be leaving my method feeders in as long as I normally would in winter, just because we are fishing bread and it does dissolve. My dad's using his cage feeder there. 20 gram. And he's got corn to try. I'm solely fishing bread today. But look at how fine his flake is compared to mine. He must be fishing for smaller fish than me then. What are you doing? Shortening your hook link?
Yeah, it got a bit. No, the line got a bit
snagged up.
Well, with that fish in there.
All right. Okay, folks. So these have been in about 15-20 minutes now. So I'm going to do a recast. Start with the island one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the clip on so we get it back in that same place before I reel in. And then what I'll do when I cast back out, I'll take that clip back off As you can see, there's no bread left on the method feeder or on the hook link, so that's why you need to recast it fairly often. Just punching the bread out. I'll show you on the big camera what I'm doing here. You just want to do it really gently. You need to make sure the bread's fresh, otherwise you won't be able to do that, it'll split every time. So some finer bits in there, and there's some bigger bits as well. But that's it. Let's get this cast back out. So my dad's just paid the bailiff. It's £6 even for 2 rods, and there's your rules. Now it says Old House Farm Fishery. I think it goes more by the name of German Lane Fishery, so that's what I'm going to title it, but I'll put that in the description as well just in case, and I'll see what it's called on Google as well. But it is known by German Lane Fishery. So, not bad price at all. There's no toilet facilities here, I don't think. You've not seen any toilet facilities, have you, Dad? No. So there's no toilet facilities here. Just a nice little coarse fishery. I do believe there's some decent carp in here, in both lakes. I imagine that they go to mid-teens, like most of these coarse fisheries. So I've got both my rods back out. Still nothing yet. My dad's had 2 fish, 2 little skimmers. Was the second one a skimmer? You threw it back before I could see it. So 4-ounce roach. So 2 species so far. Like I say, my dad's fishing a lighter setup than me, so it is expected that he'll probably catch more fish, but smaller fish. And I might pick up a decent bream or carp at some point today. So with all these fishery reviews that we do in winter, I will re-review them in summer, just so you can get an idea of what the summer fishing's like, and we'll start to build up a bit of an idea of what every fishery is like around these local parts in summer and in winter, so you know where's best at what time of year. Now, I've got it on good authority. One of my subscribers has told me he fishes it regular in winter and he can do well. You've just got to catch it on the right day, which is the same with every fishery in winter. He says you still do well close up to the island in winter. It must be a little bit deeper of a drop off to the island, and you'll pick up carp and bream here doing that. That slight drizzle's stopped now, so it's fairly dry. It is overcast, as you can see. We're the only people fishing on both lakes today. There's nobody else on the complex. I really don't blame people either. It has been tough fishing this winter. Definitely tougher than it normally is. I think we've had quite a few cold spells. Any type of freezing over on the lake just tends to kill the fishing for a good couple of weeks. And it was a little bit frozen last week for a couple of days. So I'm just saying to my dad that if I don't have anything in the next hour and a half, what I might do is I might fish. Might have a go on here. It'll only take me 2 minutes to move my stuff down, and I'll try that over to both islands, and then that'll give you a good idea of which is more productive. So we'll give it another hour and a half, and then I'll swap over for a couple of hours and we'll see if it makes a difference. Like I said, there's nobody else fishing, so that option's open to me. Well folks, I've had absolutely nothing so far, so what I think I'm going to do for you is try the other lake. If I was here on my own and I wasn't doing a video, I'd probably stick it out, but I want to catch something for you. I want to try and catch something for you, so let's explore this lake that's next to it, and we'll fish over to the islands and we'll see. What I might also do is put one rod on a pink wafter, banded pink wafter, because we know they work, there's no doubt about that. So I'll probably fish one on the bread and one on a wafter over to the islands on the next lake. So I'll transfer all my stuff over now, and we'll see if we can pick up anything on that side. Okay folks, so I've just moved myself over just off this steep embankment on this side, so I'm going to have one over to the left, probably just off them brambles there on that overhanging tree, and then the other over to the other island. I'm not decided which side I'm going to put the pink wafter on yet, but probably that side. Let's put the pink wafter on that side and we'll try and get close up to these islands here. So we're going to have to put a new hook link on one, and we're going to go with a 6mm pink washed out. Don't forget, if you wanted to boost the attractant of your bread, you can always add some goo to it or whatever attractant that you like, just a tiny bit. It's going to be difficult netting here. I'm going to have to kneel right down and scoop up, but we'll deal with that problem when we get to it. That hook's still sharp. Now if it turns out that I'm catching on the pink washed out, I've tried the bread, I can always swap both over to a pink washed out. Load that up, push our wafter into that bread, and I'm just going to try and squeeze a little bit more around it just for the cast. That'll do. And like I said, we'll just go over to this right hand island with this one. God, it is steep here. Fishing right down that embankment. I might try underarm here. It'll be a little bit easier. A lot of this is going to come off on the cast. That's ideal. Right, we're fishing again. Fingers crossed we have a little bit more luck on this side. My dad's sticking with it on the opposite bank, so hopefully he gets something a little bit better on that side, and we'll be able to give you a good indication of how not to set your chair up. Be able to give you a good indication of which lake's best. Oh, idiots. Right. Another roach. A couple of nice roach there, aren't there? I'm not quite happy with the setup on this bank. I like the rod tips as close to the water surface as possible, even sometimes just under the water surface, because I feel you get a better angle of the line coming from the rod tip going to the feeder. It should be flatter against the bottom of the lake, the line. That way a fish isn't going to get spooked if it swims into the line, go into the method feeder. Because if your rod tips are lower in the water, you're going to have less of an angle of the line going into the method feeder, whereas now the line's like that going into the method feeder. So any fish swimming around this area, they're going to get caught on it, or they might feel it or see it or whatever. So that's the only reason that I'm not quite sure this is going to work here on this high embankment. Now, there are other pegs around the lake that are a little bit flatter to the water's surface, but we'll manage. Obviously it's ideal here because I can see if my dad's catching on the opposite lake there, so that's why I'm staying here. And I'll see out the rest of the day in this peg, and fingers crossed we don't blank, otherwise it's going to be another boring video for you. But at least it gives you an idea of what the fishery is like, the layout and how to access it. You just drive in through that gate over there and you can drive all the way around. This is the reality of fishing on these commercials at this time of year. It's very tough, or it can be very tough. It depends on the winter. If you're having a mild winter, fish can feed pretty readily all the way through, but this year it's been a little bit of a nightmare. You know, the minus temperatures in England have been going down to 3 to 5 degrees, so it's really cold for this country. I'm going to try some sweet corn next cast over to that tree where the bread punch is, and we'll see if that gets anything. Just got to try a couple of different things at this time of year. Sometimes they're just not biting, and there's not really anything that you can do even with bait swaps and stuff like that. Usually if there's fish feeding, bread will pick them up. But other than that, pink wafters would be my go-to at this time of year. I just wanted to try something a little bit different with the bread punch and the quick stops. So what I'll probably do on the next cast, I'll try a little bit further away from the islands, and we'll see if that makes a difference. In probably about 40 minutes, I'll leave this cast in a little bit longer, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, that kind of thing. And then we'll try a little bit further out where it might be a touch deeper. Floating around in the water there, let's see if we can get that. I imagine all these snags here are all carp in summer. Quite a few floats and whatnot hanging from this tree. 2, 3, 4, 6 I can count so far. I'm going to put the corn on in a specific way. When I'm using a hook stop like this, what I like to do is find a nice big piece of corn, and then put the hook stop through this side. So put it in flat, so not through the opened end of the corn. So I'm just going to gently force that in, pull it all the way out, you see that, and then turn it. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to bury that hook stop in the corn. You see that? So that plastic is completely buried. So literally you've just got your piece of corn there on your hair. Well folks, certainly tough fishing today. Not even had a knock on this side, and I'm pretty sure that little run that I had before was a duck picking it up. But lovely setting, not a bad price either. £6 for 2 rods, can't argue with that. I have had it on good authority that it is good fishing here. We might just have picked it on a bad day. Like I said, we've had the frost and stuff like that. I'm just making excuses. But I've tried a good few things today, and I'm confident that it's nothing to do with the techniques that I'm using. Just one of them things. That's winter fishing for you. It can be very hit and miss, especially in January. Should I give this fishery a fishery rating now, or should I leave it till summer? I'll give it a rating now. I'm going to give it a solid 6 out of 10. The reason being, it's a pretty basic fishery, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but there's no toilet facilities and things like that, which may put some people off. I do believe that the fishing is quite good. Like I say, a couple of my subscribers have recommended German Lane, and we have fished it before and we did okay. There's some really nice fishing, there's some nice koi, some nice ghosties, plenty of carp. It's just a nice little mixed course fishery and a couple of lakes to choose from. So if you do fancy giving it a go, I'll put the address down in the description for you, and you can come and try it yourself, and hopefully you have a better day than we're having. Well folks, I think I'm going to have one last cast into the deeper water and then we're going to call it a day. Sometimes you've just got to call it, you know, got better things to be doing than sitting around waiting for a bite. But we're going to have one last cast. I'm going to try probably over in the middle here, and probably to this right hand side in the middle. So we'll have one cast down there, and then I think we'll write today off. But my dad's had a couple of small fish, but it doesn't seem like there's anything bigger feeding. Like I say, we've tried a few different methods, tried a few different baits, tried both lakes. So we can't say that we've not done pretty much everything. The only other thing that you could do is try maggots on the float at this time of year, and I do recommend anybody that's going fishing in the winter to take that and have that in your arsenal of using. But I just like to try different things, and I prefer this type of fishing, especially when it's drizzly all day and a little bit overcast. I prefer to sit under a brolly out the way and have the rods on bite alarms fishing themselves and taking care of themselves, so that I can film and do what I need to do. So let's have this one last cast and we'll see if we get anything. Bloody hell, this rain's coming down now. I don't know what these are, but in this tree here and then over to the island where somebody's got snagged up, looks like little round plastic ping pong ball type things. Anybody got an idea of what they are? Just comment down below. One looks like it's like a clear blue type thing, and that one looks like a ping pong ball. It's white. Is it like a pop-up? It looks like it's attached to like a float setup. Weird. What have you done? What's that? Wait. A clam? Hey, tell it on. Be right for tea, that. Look at that. Freshwater mussel, eh? Have you ever done that before?
No.
You've proper got it, you know. That's your new weight. Look at that, you've proper like... I think the clam's actually closed around your... He's trying to eat your bait. Look at that, guys. How amazing is that? It's actually eating his feeder. Must have been starving. Oh, it's like my dad's having paella tonight. How crazy was that? The mussel has actually clamped on to the feeder. Well, I think we'll count that as a species for you. Have you thrown it back?
I thought it was a stick or something.
It's actually it's actually bitten onto you.
Oh yeah.
You think?
Oh yeah, it does. No. Not caught mussels.
No. New PB mussel. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it had proper clamped on. But well, the filter feeders, aren't they? So whether it was filtering off the small particles of bread and was closed around the line, who knows? Crazy. I think I'd take one of them mussels right about now. Tell you what, I never usually blank, and I blanked a couple of times this winter. Obviously you'll have seen the videos by now, but yeah, it's definitely been tough. Are you into something? Oh, look at this. Just as we're about to pack up as well. F1. Look at this. Look at this. Just shows you perseverance. Yeah, it's an F1, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got that lateral line of scales and no barbules. Very welcome at this time of year. There you go, that's something to end on. Just shows you stuck it out in that peg all day and finally had a decent fish. Okay folks, so we're going to call it a day there and get packed up. This rain's really started to pick up now and come down, so before we get absolutely soaking wet and drenched, we're going to get everything in the car as soon as possible. I know it's not been a very productive day's fishing today for you, but at least we've caught. My dad's had a few fish and a clam so that was something interesting at least. But hopefully this has given you a good idea of the fishery and you can decide whether you want to come and have a go here or not. The fishing is very good here, I believe. Just got to catch it on the right day. So I just want to say once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Westies Angling.